Why the metaverse is a prison for your mind, the future looks a bit scary. I know because I've been there. Now before you start thinking that I'm a time traveler from the future, let me explain. The reason I stated that I've been to the future is because in my mind I have. What I've done is take the information that we all know of from the past, combine it with the data I've gained presently, and voila, the future, or at least in part, is predictable. Humanity leaves clues everywhere about the path it's going to take. There is always some type of hard fork, such as war, assassination of a highly influential person in society, natural disasters, etc. But nevertheless, the path of humanity, if closely observed, will reveal glimpses of a predictable outcome. Mankind is always trying to predict what the future holds, so in that manner we all live in a somewhat future-based reality. We look at what's happening in our lives at present and try to predict how our life will look down the road a bit. That in its simplest form is a form of time travel by way of the mind. So not only am I a time traveler of sorts, so are you, we all are. I would go as far to say that mental time travel can be extremely helpful in many ways to the successfulness of how we live and survive. But remember I mentioned the hard fork? If mental time travel can be helpful, it can also be harmful for some people. People who cannot focus their mind on anything but negative outcomes will likely look at their future as mostly negative possibility. Some of us who don't take seriously the eruditely mindset will not possess the information which will allow us to have greater understanding of reality. What does all this have to do with the metaverse being a prison for the mind? The metaverse, or Web3 as it's known in the tech world, is the future. No one is denying that. But what people aren't looking closely at is the effects Web3 is going to have on the human mind and human experience. Web3 and the metaverse will take away the human experience and replace it with an altered, fully digital reality. The Matrix in real life. Now in the future that I see, most people will be slowly but surely walked right into the metaverse with a great deal of ease. If you think the human mind is too sophisticated to be tricked into quietly moving to an all-virtual reality, think about this. How many things have you accepted in your life for which you know are unhealthy, but because it was advertised to you, you've now accepted it as normal? I cringe each time I think about how many people blindly accept virtually anything without further inquiry, as long as it's presented to them by their favorite news station, politician, celebrity, or internet influencer. The metaverse is and will be sold to the unsuspected as the next cool new thing, and with as much FOMO, fear of missing out, as it takes to gain mass adoption. The movie Ready Player One depicts a future much like the one I'm speaking of here. At this point in history, it should be recognizable to almost anyone that movies are a viable source for predicting the future. Movie makers predict the future all the time and try to show the moviegoers their version of the future they see. You may be thinking at this point that movies are nothing more than a work of fiction, but I implore you to take a deeper look. Gadgets that we use in our everyday life were depicted and predicted on the big screens of the movie theaters. Gadgets such as Google Watch, cell phones, robots, remote controls, bionic limbs, smart home technologies, and on were all predicted in futuristic movies. Check out these 6 movies in the link below that introduced futuristic tech that is available right now. Are movie makers true time travelers, or do they just possess highly active imaginations? I'll leave that for you to decide. Time travel is a huge fascination in our society, and I believe this fascination goes much deeper than a passing novelty. Mankind's fascination with the future could be deeply ingrained in our DNA, as we love to wonder what's next for us. If we've learned anything from past history, is that mankind rarely goes backward, so Web3 and the metaverse is coming regardless of me writing this article or not. If the metaverse is the future, and it most likely is, then each and every one of us should be thinking about how we will navigate the space. How will people live in a virtual reality where digital products, services, ownership, and relationship are guided by a space barely connected to the real world? This question should be at the forefront of your mind, as the effects will definitely change everything we know to this point. I'm not going to end in the normal fashion with a closing statement. But I will say this: if the future is predictable and a hard fork of choice must be made, which road will you take? Metaverse or reality? Now you can wear man eruditely, the Michelson effect, clothing that you can customize to your specific style. Author, Michelson Williams, Editor-in-Chief, MMAP Magazine, mmapmagazine.com, founder and creative director at goalphoenix.com.